True mastery in trading comes from becoming an independently thinking trader. And this is a trap that, to no fault of most people, they fall into this trap within communities, within mentorships of, I don't need to put the work in myself because my mentor is going to teach me everything that I need to know. When something changes and I need to have an adjustment in my approach to the markets, or I need an addition of a new strategy, or I need to develop this, or I keep seeing this pattern play, but they're not talking about it, so I'm not going to do anything about it. They fall into this trap of being completely non-self accountable, and they fail to ever get to this status of being an independent thinker, which means they're always reliant on that mentor. They're always reliant on that community. They're always reliant on feedback to keep progressing and advancing in their trading career. What you need to aim for, what the goal for every trader needs to be, is to become an independent thinker. An independent thinker in the sense of when you're performing your analysis, of when you're developing your bias, of when you're entering your trade, of when you realize that adjustments, tweaks, changes need to happen because market characteristics have shifted and you're no longer as profitable as you were before. It's very rare that you see this happen because most people are too stuck in the loop of, my mentor thinks this way, I need to learn exactly how to think like them. And this is where people fall short. And what I've noticed is the tenets and the values that people have instilled in them deep to create the actions that they take, to base their decision making on. People lack value nowadays. People lack solid, fundamental values in which they act from. And we live in a fucked up world. We live in a fucked up world. A lot of people have completely fucked up minds. And we've been through this. We're biologically limited from the wiring that we have as humans. Our actual brain structure and wiring limits us when it comes to this game of trading. The social programming that we have, even if you had the best upbringing in the world, the best upbringing is not going to align your perspective and your lens of how you see things like winning, or how you see things like profitability, or how you see things like growth. It's not aligned with what we need in trading. And you've been through the entire curriculum now, and I'm sure that you have that solid base understanding of, through our biological wiring and our social programming, we go back to that first message, the natural born trader is a myth. So development has to happen. Development has to happen. And this is why I put in place pretty early on in module 3, reverse engineering consistent profitable trading. And that exercise was to help you understand, this is where I currently am. This is the actions that I take. These are the habits that I have. This is how disciplined and patient I am. This is what a profitable trader looks like. What's the gap that I need to close in on? What is the gap from my current actions in order to reach that level? So that exercise was essentially to show you where you are currently flawed so that you can have that self-awareness and start working on it. And that character, the discipline, the self-respect, the meaning behind your actions, the responsibility that you take on in order to be a profitable trader, none of that is found at your goal. In fact, when you really bake it down, these are a prerequisite for actually achieving it. For achieving profitability, you have to go through this process, this journey, this development stage, this learning phase, to become the person that can act in accordance to your trading plan. And I've been very transparent from the very beginning. What we see is a load of people lean into psychology, tell you psychology is everything, psychology, blah, blah, blah. You see a load of guys then fight back because this is how pendulums work, right? It swings up this way. At some point, these guys are going to swing back as well. And you see the extremes. And from the entirety, I've always been very much in the middle grounded viewpoint of it's a combination of both. It's an ever-fluxing combination of both, where the more your technical knowledge grows, the more your technical skill set grows, the more psychology will come in and have an effect on the performance that you get. But at the very beginning, when you've got fuck all idea what you're doing, the psychology still has an impact, but your technical lack of understanding is going to be a key fundamental problem to why you can't execute anything, because you don't know what you're trying to act on. So psychology throughout this learning curve, will ebb and flow from how important and how impactful it will be on your trading performance. However, when we think about that trader that's profitable, through that exercise of reverse engineering what profitable trading looks like, the traits that person has, the habits they have, the discipline that they act from, everything that makes up that trader, what is the foundation that allows that long-term commitment and that consistency of actions to be that person? What is the foundation that is built off of? And it's going to be self-respect. A lot of people are disheartened because they don't do the things they promise themselves they're going to do. And they don't know how to fucking change it. And that's what the whole of Edge, in its entirety, the core curriculum is built for. First, to expose the limitations that you have, to become self-aware of them, to then understand, okay, there's actually ways in order to develop and work on that mind that I need to have in order to follow my trading plan, in order to act and do the things that I've promised myself that I'm going to. And without that self-respect to follow through with the things that you're going to tell yourself that you're going to do, how can you ever become the person capable of achieving the goal of becoming consistently profitable? So throughout this last piece of content for Module 4, for the entirety of the Edge core curriculum, what I want to be going into, because I noticed that it's so lacking, even in my own demographic, my peers, people who are the same age as me, who've been on this earth from the same amount of fucking time as I have, it's still something that I notice. It's not just the new generations that you see coming up, and they're even more fucked up in the head because of all the social programming they have, and a lot of it now coming from social media, and wiring their brains to just the way that their brains are being wired are the complete opposite of the skills, of the characteristics that you need in order to be a profitable trader. So it's going to be harder in order to rewire that brain because there's a lot more to work on. But even in my own generation, I noticed this just complete lack of values and tenets that people follow behind what are the driving forces behind the decisions that they make. When you see people ask questions to me in the community and you see the feedback that I give, when someone makes a specific decision and they say, this is what I'm now going to be doing going forwards, my main driver is always to question and query, what is your why? What is your why behind making that decision? Even if I think the decision is positive, that's always the first thing that I want to understand. What has been the influencing factor that's made you come to this conclusion that you're now going to change the way that you've been doing something for, I don't know, the last 6, 7, 8 months? What is it? And a lot of the times it's not going to be themselves. And that's where that independent thought is lacking. So during this piece of content, True Trading Self-Mastery, first we've defined what is self-mastery in trading. It's becoming an independent thinker. It's not allowing others' judgments, others' bias, others' input to change the way that you view something. You've been learning this skill set for however many years, whether it's a year, whether it's 5 years. You should all be building towards having the confidence in your own ability, having the confidence in the technical knowledge that you've built up, having the confidence in the skill set that you've developed. And this is where mentors, communities, they do come in handy, because during that original, at the beginning of your growth curve, you want that guidance. You want that understanding. You want to be able to absorb the knowledge that someone else has, but there is always a key inflection point where you need to be able to go, okay, instead of being accountable to what this person is telling me, I need to take all the accountability on myself. And this was something that I went through when I was learning, when I was at the very beginning of my growth curve and my journey into trading. This was something that I did, and it was very rare, but I disappeared. I was having good results at this point, but I had to prove to myself that this is me. It's not someone else's influence. It's not because I'm coming on and I'm watching a 2-hour webinar or I'm seeing analysis coming in, which there is no doubt I would have not got to the stage that I was as quick as I did without that mentorship, without that guidance. However, I had to prove to myself. So it was for around 10 or 12 months. I didn't go on the community once. I didn't post, I didn't read, and I just proved to myself that this is my skill set. This is my ability. This is all this money that I'm making is based on my own actions. And that builds your self-confidence, it builds your self-accountability, it builds your self-respect, and it allows you to become someone who doesn't let others influence your decisions. And this is where you all need to get to. So these tenets that I want to talk about, these values in which you need to instill within you in order to become that person that you need to be, to develop that correct mindset to operate from in life, not just fucking trading. This is life. I want to talk about these core values that you need to operate from in every decision that you make. And it all comes down to having self-respect. That's the foundation of everything. Having the self-respect to say, this is what I'm going to do, and then following through with it. So when we think about, and this is going to be relevant to trading, but already in the last 10 videos that we've done in this module 4 mastery phase, I've gone into the minutiae of the trading. I've talked about risk management. I've gone into very specific details and minor details of exactly how to apply it practically to your own experience and your own trading journey in order to have a strong impact. When we're talking about this, it's going to be more high level. It's going to be more high level, and it's going to be more about the person that you are and the person that you need to become than being 100% relevant and giving an example, especially down to the tiniest detail of whatever that trading scenario may be. So this is going to be a little bit more high level than what we've been going through the last 10 pieces of content. So the first tenet, and something that I've instilled in everyone, comes to honesty. A lot of people are going to hear this and they're going to kind of, the basic overview, when you hear that, you think, okay, honesty is to other people. And yes, that's important. Honesty is what builds respect and is what builds trust. So let's bring it back. If you want to have self-respect, which is the foundation, if you want to have trust, i.e. believe in your own ability, believe in your own source, you have to be honest with yourself. And our minds are a funny thing. And they view the things and the person we are and the things that we do with rose-tinted glasses. We have a natural proclivity to delude ourselves into believing the best about ourselves. And yes, we have the inner critic that hops in at moments, but overall, when we view ourselves, we see it with rose-tinted glasses because we are the main characters, right? We're always the main characters. So when I'm talking about honesty, I'm not talking about honesty with other people. That's crucial, it's critical, but it also comes back to build self-respect, to build self-responsibility, self-accountability, to build trust in your own skill set, your own knowledge, your own decisions. You have to be honest with yourself. So this is where we have to become that observer. We have to be able to observe the actions that we take, the decisions that we make. We have to be able to go outside of ourself and become the observer in order to see objective reality. If you fail to become the observer of self, you'll live in a deluded world. You'll live in a deluded perspective of who you are and how you operate. And this was a question that I had very recently, and they were talking about procrastination. And they were saying, I'm so productive in the day, but whenever I take a day off, whenever I take an hour off, I feel guilt. And this is just an example of how I, as someone who is an observer, can give them a base perspective to spark different questions in their mind. But the key view is based on honesty, and it hurts, and people don't like it. It hurts our egos, it hurts our feelings. But the only way to get a new perspective and assess objective reality is through that honesty. So what I said back to them was that initially, first, you need to be honest with yourself. The second thing that I said, and gave an example and said, what's the highest probability scenario? If you get to the end of a day, or you take a day off after a month of hard work, what is the most probable scenario if you feel guilt? Is it because you have such a drive within you that you just can't fathom ever breaking, ever resting? And yes, that may be true for some people, a small percentage of people, and it's going to ebb and flow throughout your journey. We all have felt that feeling. Or is the second case more likely, and a higher probability, that actually what that guilt is because during the work day, when you're going through your work blocks, however you might split your day up, you're not as productive as you wanted to be. So that's why when you take a break, you feel that guilt, because you look back at what you've achieved in that day. You look back at what you've achieved in that month, in that week. And you feel guilt because you know you haven't done everything that you could have done. You know that you had standards that you set for yourself. You know what you're capable of, and you haven't delivered on it. Wouldn't that make a little bit more sense if that is where that guilt, that feeling of guilt, is driven from? And that's what honesty looks like. And you need to become the person who can objectively review yourself, review your actions, and look at them with honesty. Honesty is uncomfortable. Honesty hurts. But without it, you can't have true self-awareness. And without true self-awareness, you can't work on the mind that you need to develop, and the actions that you take, and the person that you are. All of it comes back to being honest. So this is an absolutely crucial tenet that you must follow throughout your life, throughout your trading, is to be able to view yourself from objective reality rather than deluding yourself to believe you are something that you're not. Because if you delude yourself, you don't think you need to work on it. So break that back down, even when it's uncomfortable. The only way that you're going to learn, the only way that you're going to improve, the same as it is with others. Honesty builds respect, and honesty builds trust. So to build self-trust and self-respect, which is the foundation we need to operate from, you have to be honest and transparent when assessing yourself critically. The next key tenet that I want to talk about is take responsibility, taking that self-responsibility, self-accountability for every action that you take. We all know that we are the architects of our success or of our failure. And we can all view this, and we can all complain, and that we live in a victim world, right? We live in a victim mindset world where this is encouraged by things like participation awards, or all these different things which now are a part of people's social programming as they're growing up, which didn't exist in my world, definitely didn't exist in the generations before world. We're not here to participate. We're here to fucking win. We're here to achieve. We're here to grow. We're here to learn. It's important to understand that we have this, to take the self-accountability of our successes and of our failures. Every decision that we take, every action that we have before we take a trade, as we're in a trade, after we've taken a trade, how we react to that outcome, that is what we have control over. We don't have control over the outcome. We know this. And that is the risk of trading. And that is the mind that we need to develop. The mind that is capable of accepting the risk of uncertainty of outcome. But we can control everything else. And that's where that responsibility and that accountability has to happen. And you hear this a lot. So I don't try and delude people into how I got into trading. My story is very different to most other traders. Most other traders work a 9-to-5. They don't have a lot of capital behind them. They're trying to break out of that. They're trying to create a new life for themselves. I didn't come from that. And this is the criticism that still to this day, when trading is all I've done for sole income for the last 5 years, still to this day, I get people tell me, well, you made money from other things. You made money from other places. When I came into trading, at that point, we'd been building a business from nothing for the previous 5 years. 5 years before I even got into trading, we were building a business. That business became successful. What happens when you have a successful business? You take dividends, you pull capital out of that business. The fire that I always had was I wasn't satisfied with putting my money into a retirement account into an ISA. I wasn't satisfied with just doing that and going down a traditional path and continuing with a career. I found trading and I saw it as an opportunity to take the money which I was taking from my business and growing it into something bigger. I wasn't happy with the 7% average return that you get. I wanted to increase the capital that I have by using the money which I was putting from that business. And that's a very different scenario to most people. And what you see is those who've come from nothing and they've fucking done it. And huge respect. It is a much, much harder journey when you don't have the capital. And that's obviously been made easier now by the amazing opportunity of prop firms. When I was coming up, there wasn't an opportunity at all like prop firms. So you're very much reliant on having your own capital. So you had guys in there who were sweating away, but they only had £2,000 in their account, and that's all the money that they could have access to. So yes, it's going to take them a fuckload longer. Now we have this amazing opportunity through prop firms, and this is why when I see people shitting on it, it pisses me off. When you see people shitting on it, who is it? It's the people who had to sweat to build the personal capital. But they're so ego-driven that they can't go, look at how amazing this opportunity is. I wish I had this when I was at ground zero. And the reason why they look down on traders who trade prop firms, who have funded accounts, who are pulling that out, and they have to kind of shit on them, it's not your money, etc., is because they didn't have that opportunity when they were there. It's such a game-changing opportunity that is available for all of the traders who are coming up in this now, that you should never ever say anything bad about it, because if it disappears, I can guarantee that 90% of this industry would be fucked. 90% of the guys who are big faces, who are making a lot of money, would be absolutely screwed if that opportunity disappeared. But going back to the journey and explaining it from my perspective, I've had shit the entirety of my trading career because I came in from a very different starting line. Did I still have to learn the skill set? Did I still have to master the technical aspects? Did I still have to develop the characteristics to be the person that I am today? Yes. Was it easier because I had the capital behind me? Yes. But the excuse of capital is no longer there because you have this opportunity to have 200,000, 500,000, 3 million. You have the access to all the capital if you have the skill set and the right mindset. So that excuse no longer exists, but it's still a criticism that I've had throughout my trading career of, but you started, you had money, you had capital, you had another income. Okay, cool. The markets do not give a flying fuck about your excuses. And that's harsh. And it's harsh because it's coming from me, the person who came in from a different playing field, who started the game at a further level in with easier access and an easier route. So it's hard to hear, but it's the truth. And unless you take that responsibility for the situation that you're in, not use it as an excuse, not use it as a reason to shit on other people who have come from a different place, who started from a different level. If you don't use that as the excuse for why you are where you are, and you take full responsibility for where you're starting from, for the successes and the failures that you're going to incur along the way, unless you take that self-accountability, you will not find profitability, you will not find success. Because without that responsibility of everything that's led up to this moment in your life, for all of those actions and decisions, if you want to blame people, if you want to blame your upbringing, if you want to blame your broker, if you want to blame these prop firms who've disappeared and you had a payout and you didn't get it, no one cares. The market doesn't care about your excuses. The brokers don't give a flying fuck. The prop firms don't care. The only interest that they have, don't let them delude you, the only interest that they have is their business. As it should be. That should always be a business's first interest, is their own interest, not their traders. They're traders. I think there's enough about prop firms has been exposed now and how they operate, and this was something that we talked about very early on with an edge, so you all knew those things of how these guys are actually making money. And logically, it doesn't make sense when they say, we're here for the traders. No, that you're here for yourselves. and you present a fucking amazing opportunity that I'm going to take advantage of. And if you go bust, that's my responsibility because I chose you. But that's the level of responsibility that you need to get to. Do not look for excuses. Do not look to blame external factors. You are responsible and you are the architect of the success or of the failure that you incur within this industry. No one's coming to save you. Your mentor's not coming to save you. I'm not coming to save you. I can't pop through your screen and start making decisions for you. So don't delude yourself that anyone is. We can have good intentions and we can share our experiences and share the reality, and that's something that you'll see very rarely is the objective reality talked about trading. When you watch content on YouTube, are they telling you these things? Or are they sugarcoating something just trying to get you in order to buy something from them? People aren't sharing the truths. And the truth is you have to take full responsibility for everything in your entire life, for the circumstance that you're currently in, and then obviously in trading for your actions, for your behaviors, for your decisions that you make. It all comes down to you. Further from this, I want to talk about embracing the resistance, because resistance is something, and we did a full, you've got about a 90-minute video on building resilience in the face of uncertainty that's part of module 4. And this was one of my favorite pieces of content. And the reasoning why is because everyone sees challenge and hurdles and obstacles and bad things that happen as negatives. But these things, these challenges, this resistance that you face is where the lessons lie to get to where you want to be. Resistance isn't an enemy, and you can never view it as something that you need to stay away from. Resistance is where you meet your boundaries, and this is where growth comes from. And we could talk about this in terms of resistance, being up, feeling uncomfortable, etc., etc. It's all along the same sort of lines. So resistance is going to come. It's going to come in the form of your inability to understand something technically and taking a load of bad trades. That is resistance. The self-doubt that you face when you continue to make these bad errors. The external pressures that are limiting how much time you may be able to put into this. All of these things are resistance. But resistance is what forges the sword under the fire. So the mind that is created, the skill set that is created in terms of technical and your mindset, all of this is created under resistance. The more that you fail, the closer you get towards the prize, the thing that you're trying to achieve, that consistent profitability. So the more resistance you feel towards tasks, the more resistance you feel towards a piece of content that I give to you within this curriculum. And this is something that I've made key as you're working through the exercises. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 big exercises. I know that they're big. I know that they take time. And then obviously I gave you external resources as well to work through, which I think can be extremely beneficial. But if you're working through those exercises and you just go, oh, this is too much work, I'm going to skip this. The same as when you're reading a book. If you skip over a chapter, question yourself why. And it's probably because you face resistance towards answering certain questions, reading and hearing certain things. Those are most probable the things that you need to lean into, the things that you subconsciously know that you're limited in and you need to work on. But you don't want to hear that message because we're always trying to protect ourselves. So whenever you feel resistance, whether it's in your learning phase towards a specific thing, whether it's about a specific task, whether it's about how you face losses, whether it's about how you feel about something that's happened like a prop firm going bust, that resistance, leaning into it, is going to guide you towards what you need to become in order to be consistently profitable trader. So every challenge that you face is that opportunity to strengthen your discipline, to strengthen your understanding of something, to refine your strategy, to sharpen your mental edge. All of this challenge, all of this resistance that you face and feel, because it's a feeling, you need to fucking lean into it. You need to embrace that resistance, because within it lies the keys to grow and learn. All it is the edge of your comfort zone being tested, and you need to push directly through it. And within that piece of content, we went into depth about a lot of things like capital increases and the challenges that you face there, a scenario like that. And we went into full depth about when you feel that resistance, you're not looking for gimmicks. You're not looking for, I'm going to start a $10,000 paper trading account and merge all my accounts to this so that I only see small increments of money going up and down. Fuck no. You need to get comfortable seeing all of those ups and downs. If you want to be someone who trades $1 million and you get 100K and it's the most that you've ever traded before, and seeing $1,000, $2,000 of fluctuation as a trade is playing out, and that makes you uncomfortable, you better sit your ass down and watch that until you're comfortable watching it. Don't try and distract yourself. Don't try and keep yourself in your comfort zone. You need to be able to watch that. And that resistance that you feel, you have to lean into it, because that's what's going to give you that growth in order to be able to sit there and watch large amounts of money going up and down. And this is something that you'll face constantly every time you get another funding account and you edge up towards the edge of your comfort zone. That's where growth comes. That's where that expansion of the growth of the comfort zone increases, and it becomes your new normal. And you need all of these different challenges you face, and being able to work through it, to overcome them, that needs to be now within your comfort zone. So the only way to push it is to push through that resistance and expand that comfort zone and find growth in whatever task, whatever challenge it may be. And when we think about this from a mindset point of view and a psychological point of view, all resistance is your old self fighting the development of the new mind and the new comfort zone that you are trying to achieve. So when you feel that resistance, when you find something hard, you have to continue doing it anyway and beat that resistance that you're feeling in order to grow, in order to develop, in order to achieve whatever you are trying to achieve. So when next time you feel challenged, next time you feel unsure about something, next time you feel that those physical sensations that we've covered manifest and your breathing stops or your heart rate goes up or you notice yourself staring, whatever your physical tells may be, which you should have recognized from the very beginning, because that's in module 1 when we're exposing these physical tells that we have when we're uncomfortable, when we feel that resistance. From that point, as your self-awareness grows, you know, okay, I need to now lean into this. I need to take on whatever this challenge is, because this is crucial in the development of that mind that can actually be comfortable accepting whatever that resistance may be. More values. We've covered honesty. We've covered accountability, so self-accountability. And we've covered embracing resistance, so leaning in to the challenges that you face. What also is super critical is going to be building yourself to have relentless discipline. When we think about the current you, when you think about the old you, how can you break free of the habits that are harming you right now until you destroy the part of your identity that associates with those habits, so that's driving those negative habits or negative behavior loops, whatever it may be? We know that discipline is the absolute backbone of being a successful trader, of being a profitable trader. Again, we've done an entire piece of content on it, which you all will have gone through. It's very easy for a mentor to say, when someone gives them the feedback, I have no discipline, I keep doing this. If you are willing to say you have no discipline, you are completely engulfed in that sense of self that has no discipline. And there is no way out of it. Because every time that you go to perform a small task, every time that you sit down and say, I need to do this, and then you find yourself not doing it. I need to follow my plan, and then you find yourself not doing it. You've already built that self-identity, that self-image of someone who has no discipline. And that is going to absolutely destroy your trading results. So what you need to do in order to get around from this, in order to be able to stick to your trading plan, to be able to stick to your management plan, to be able to follow through with the things that you tell yourself you're going to do and actually fucking follow through and do them. Whenever you're tempted to deviate from your plan, whenever you're tempted to go outside of what you know you should do and destroy your self-respect, discipline is built, right? Discipline is built in small steps. Progression comes easy when you align your actions with your intentions, which is what discipline is. So what I want you to do, if this is still something that you struggle with, do it for 5 days and you'll realize how easy this is. Consciously think. So bring yourself into the present. At the beginning of each day, this is what I need to do, this is what I need to do, this is what I need to do. Write out 5 things that you need to do and follow through with them. Small tasks, small action-based tasks, so process-orientated, not outcome-orientated. Set up 5 different process. It can be as easy as, with the trading journal, make sure that I do my daily hypo. Make sure that I journal a trade before I take it. Make sure that I recap it, recap market price action throughout the day and take away lessons from it at the end of a day. All of these tasks can take 10 to 30 minutes. But when you start ticking them off and you realize that you can do it and you hold that self-respect and that self-accountability with, this is what I promised to do for myself, and this is what I did. It's as easy as that to change your self-image and realize that you can have discipline. The easier the tasks are and the more frequent that you're ticking them off, the more that discipline is building and the more that self-respect comes in, the more that honesty, that integrity, everything starts to build and develop. So for 5 days of your, I was going to say something about this, for 5 days of your life, just commit yourself to following through with everything that you tell yourself you're going to do. What that 5-day period is going to allow you to realize, hey, this is easier than I thought it was to have discipline. This is easier than I thought it was to follow through on the actions that I've set myself because I know the intention behind it. And because it's such a small, limited time, it's something that you can very, very easily commit to. This is where you hear these things take 60 days to build a habit, etc. Most people just need to get their foot in the door. Most people just need to start building that discipline step by step from their daily actions. And once they feel that momentum building, it's easy to lean into because you realize you're capable of doing these things. And what is critical when we're thinking about this and we're thinking about this exercise that I've just advised that you do, which is so fucking simple. It's so simple, guys. When you're thinking about this exercise, it has to be relevant to everything that you do in a day. It's very cliche to say how we do one thing is how we do another. But it's extremely true because you're operating from the same mind when you're not trading to when you are trading. So all of those goals that you set for yourself, all of those process-driven goals that you've set for yourself, these small tasks to do to build momentum and show yourself that you can have discipline in your actions and actually follow through on your intentions, keep that self-respect and self-trust. Nothing will ruin your chances more than betraying yourself. So make sure that you're applying these things to all areas of your life. Because if you're great in the day, and then at nighttime you just self-destruct, you destroy yourself, you say, I'm going to go for a run, I'm going to go to the gym, and you don't follow through with it, that's a little chip on your self-respect. That's a little chip on your self-trust and your self-confidence in your own ability. How you do one thing is how you do everything. So when you're thinking about that exercise, make sure it's relevant to all areas of your life throughout that 5-day period, not just your trading. Because if you're constantly betraying yourself outside of your trading, you have zero chance when it comes to being someone who's disciplined in your trading approach. Another tenet that I want you to all completely understand and be able to operate from this value is hold yourself to excruciatingly high standards. This again, and I mean, this is a bit of the overall piece. As much as people don't have values nowadays, people also don't have standards. They don't have standards in how they operate. When you set your standards, when you think about the standards that you set for yourself, accept nothing less. So in your actions, when you commit to something, you make sure you follow through with it. And this goes a little bit back to what we were just talking about. At this point, life trading, it's the same thing. There's so much crossover, there's so much combination that you can't be one person in your trading career and then be a completely different person outside of it. You can't separate those things. You either fucking are someone who operates like XYZ, or you're someone who doesn't operate like XYZ. And in trading, as it is in life, mediocrity is the enemy of success. If you're happy to settle for average, if you're happy to settle for average standards, hold yourself accountable to average standards, and just want to achieve more, you want to achieve greatness, you want to achieve these bigger things, it will never happen. To achieve that true mastery in trading, you must have these excruciatingly high standards defined of all these different characteristics that you have: discipline, patience, mental capacity, your focus when you're in the markets. All of these standards that you set for yourself, they should be the highest standard that you can uphold. You know what you're capable of, and you should be constantly be trying to test the limits of those standards that you hold for yourself. And this means that you remain the student of the game. This means that you constantly look for ways that you can improve in your trading. It means that you're constantly reviewing the data that you're building month after month. Because if you're reviewing that, that's how you have that continuous growth, that continuous adaptation, the continuous evolution to being and staying that profitable trader once you achieve it. Why accept good when you can get great? Why accept great when you can achieve exceptional? None of us are here in our lives to achieve mediocrity. None of us want to remain a slave to the system. None of us want to remain someone who just, an NPC, for lack of a better term, an NPC, someone who just floats through, who's the feather in the wind of life, who just gets blown from one direction to another. You have to fucking take control. You have to take control, and you have to develop this mind. Most of these fucking people, most of these traders don't know that they need to develop the mind in order to be a profitable trader. Most people don't know it. And there's a lot of people who do know it, but they won't do any work on it. You're all here, so you're all different. You know you need to work on it. And I've given you all of the keys that you need to work on, given you everything that you need. The routines to follow, the habits to have, the characteristics that you need to act from. And now we're going through the values, which is essentially your deep-rooted beliefs, which you need that are aligned with the game of trading. And what most people don't think about is for someone who's been trading 2, 3 years, 4 years, there's a razor thin line between success and failure. And a lot of people ebb and flow. And this is what break-even trading looks like. They ebb and flow throughout an entirety of a year, but they finish the year and they're sideways. And a lot of this comes back to is they don't set themselves high enough standards and then hold themselves accountable to them. So when we're talking about accountability, we need to understand that standards have to be set and define them, write them down. People will think about these things, but they don't actually ever do anything about them. Write the standards that you need to hold yourself to and make that commitment to break free of that break-even dance, to break free of getting to the end of the year and just feeling like you've moved sideways. You need to be able to heighten the standards that you hold for yourself and then keep yourself accountable to them. When your standards that you set for yourself are high, it's going to ensure that you're always above that thin razor line, that you're always learning, that you're always growing, that you're always developing as a trader, as a human. So make sure that you're setting yourself these excruciatingly high standards and then holding yourself accountable with it. Be honest with yourself. You're starting to see how all of these different values, they all come into one thing. They're all layered over each other. And this is the person that you need to become. Another key tenet that we need to be able to act from, and a value that we need to have, is being flexible, being adaptable. This is another key characteristic and a value that you need to serve when you're thinking about the values that you have. And this is the ability to remain flexible, to remain adaptable. With trading, there is a absolutely deluded expectation that once you achieve profitability, you just remain there, and you've achieved it, you've done it, and then it's just a case of keep going, you're good now, you're good now. The market's forever changing. The characteristics, the environment, the global economy is always changing, and this is what influences heavily what's happening in the markets. So we need to be someone who understands that. We need to be someone who is completely accepting that they're a student of the game, and whatever may be working at this point, in 2 years' time, it may not be working. And at that point, we need to take the self-accountability, the self-responsibility in order to go, change is needed. I need to adapt and change relevant to what I'm seeing on the charts. And this is where it comes back to that independent thinking. This is the level that most people never get to. Most people don't review their data over a 6-month period and say, how can I do this better? What am I noticing in terms of patterns? Is there a pattern that's showing me every time I'm taking this specific strategy trade, there's a little something that happens on the 1 hour chart, which means I should no longer be taking this strategy because before, over a year period, it made me 12%. Now it's only making me 4%. But you recognize that pattern. Most people never get to that level of depth in terms of thinking and evolution in their trading career. They're just simply trying to mirror and copy whatever their mentor is telling them. But this is the level of understanding that you need to be able to get to. Most people don't even know how to go into the depth of doing a project like that. And that's where in this module, we've delivered that to you so that you know you have a plan. When things go wrong, what do I need to be paying attention to? How do I measure this? What data do I need? How can I make a change? How can I move a different route in order to make sure that this isn't the end for me? Because if you continue to do the same thing over and over again, it's not going to work out. You're going to just damage yourself in the long run if you just think at some point this is all going to start working again. And this is where that objective reality and being an observer of the objective truth has to come into play. So with all the change that can happen in the markets, you have to know and understand and have a plan in place of when to pivot. And this is the value of being flexible. When the markets are giving you a sign that change is needed, you have to have something in place that allows you to pivot and change and adapt to the current market characteristics. Otherwise, you're going to get left behind. And this is why something that I've always said is I will forever, as long as I'm doing this, as long as I'm trading, I will forever be a student of the game. I have no ego involved. Have I achieved amazing things which a lot of you want to achieve? Yes. Does it mean that I'm going to continue achieving these things? No. So how do I ensure that I continue to have growth? It's by ensuring that I'm adaptable and flexible and willing to change when change is needed. And that's what allows me to keep on top. That's what allows me to keep moving forwards and building that momentum towards the things that I personally am trying to achieve in trading. Rigidity is just going to leave you behind. And everyone will have experienced this. Everyone will have had a style, had a trading strategy which worked, and then over time it became less profitable, and then at some point it's break even, and then at some point it may even go into drawdown. And most people don't do anything about it. Most people just watch it, watch those results. You're just observing yourself going from a winner to a loser instead of understanding change needs to be made. I need to keep up. I need to change. I need to be adaptable. You have to have discipline in following your plan, but with the knowledge and the expectation that at some point, some things are going to have to change. All of those changes should be data-driven, and they should be over a larger sample size. This isn't about changing every week, changing every month, changing every 3 months. This is about measuring your data over a 2-quarter period, and then doing a project of understanding how you can optimize your current performance. How can I optimize the results that I'm getting? And you'll get a lot of insights from just going over that data, from looking at your winning trades, from looking at your losing trades, from comparing the different things and the different patterns that you observe within those, that's where all the keys lie to continually improving your strategy and your edge technically within the markets. One thing that I see that is an absolute killer of most people's trading journey is those expectations. And the expectation that kills most people is obviously what's been built off of social media, the stigma that's attached to this industry, the kind of perspective and point of view that you build before you've even entered the markets. And this happens, and we've talked about this before. You get the guys on Instagram, they're posting a winning trade every single day. They look like they have 100% strike rate. They've got the Lambos, they've got the cars, they've got the watches, they've got the lifestyle, and it's enticing. But a lot of what is created is a false expectation by these sort of individuals. And what destroys most people's confidence, what destroys most people's self-respect, self-image during those beginning phases is the expectations that are built up from these sorts of individuals to curate how people think this journey is going to go. And this is what all of Module 4 is about. This is why I shared so much personal anecdotes, my own experience over the last decade that I've been trading, my own experience of external pressures and how they relate to the trading and how they can have an influence. But the expectation, I want to be completely honest, completely truth. It's from my perspective. So you may experience something different, but the expectations have to be set. And a lot of the times the expectations that are truth are unflattering and it doesn't sell well. So these guys who are marketing stuff, they set you the false expectations on purpose. Who you want to listen to is the guys who are, everything that they say is based on logic. One of the things that triggered me recently, it's actually from a trader that I like. I find him funny, find him entertaining. But he was talking completely irrationally. He was talking about how you should only take 1 to 2 trades a day because you can only make 2 emotional decisions. You don't want to be taking emotional decisions. No. And this is where, when I see someone speak so much bullshit, it's hard not to bite on these things. The majority of the decisions that you make through a day will be guided from your emotions and your subconscious. The only decisions that you make throughout a day which are unemotional, which are the decisions which you want to be leading your actions when you're trading, are the ones when you're present and you're using your conscious mind. Your conscious mind is where logic is delivered. It's where you can follow a logical thought process. Emotional decisions are irrational decisions. You're justifying the decisions that you're taking through the way that you feel. So when I heard that you could only make 2 emotional decisions in a day, so only take 1 to 2 trades a day because that's all you can handle. I'm not telling people to take more than 1 to 2 trades a day. All I tell people throughout the entirety of this is use your logical mind to make decisions and actions. You do not want your emotions infecting your decisions when you're in the heat of the moment. And that's what this whole thing is. That's how psychology and a strong mind is developed, through accepting the uncomfortableness and the challenge of uncertainty of outcome, but knowing that you have the right actions to follow, and then logically being able to find conscious reasoning to follow your trading plan versus emotional decisions which will lead you outside of your trading plan to move forward. So when you hear someone speaking completely illogically, question their intention. Are they selling me something? Are they doing this? Are they doing that? And when you read books of how to market to people, and there's one which I've read recently, which is from a guy who sold a trading education company for 10 million, I think it was. Great book. But you start to get to see how these guys who are very, very good at marketing have a message by setting the false expectations, because they want to tell you this is what you need, right? This is the problem that you're having. This is what you need. And by the way, it's going to be really easy. But then the actual deliverance, and this is what probably separates a good marketer and a bad marketer, they'll still sell you the dream, but then they'll deliver you what you need, Whereas the majority of these guys who are selling the dream don't deliver you what you need. So they've set the false expectation, but then they don't address it within it. I personally don't agree with setting false expectations to sell something to then even deliver on it. My thing is set the correct expectations. Your message will get through to the people who are open to the objective reality and the truth. Those who are committed will put their time in. They'll invest. They'll put their time. They'll commit to whatever you're saying because they know where your intentions are. I'm not interested in trying to sell people a dream. Trading is one of the hardest things you will ever do in your lives. And continuing to trade will also, I can reassure you after 10 years of doing this, continuing to trade, continuing to be profitable will also be equally as hard as just starting out. There is no end game. This is a constant evolution of self, of strategy, of understanding, and it's just a constant development in order to continue to do this. And that is the reality of what it is. And this is the expectation that you need to have. Obviously, there's false expectations set of so many things about this industry, but I'm going to leave that there. But expectations do not operate from your expectations. When you hear an expectation set, when you're a little bit self-aware that someone is trying to sell you the dream, or you can feel that the beliefs that you hold within have been programmed by some of these morons, when you have that self-awareness and you're feeling that challenge, and you can identify this is because the expectation that I've been set, you need to now quickly change that expectation to what the objective reality is. And the longer that you allow that to affect you negatively in terms of your actions, the more your actions are misaligned, and the beliefs that you hold are getting strengthened, you'll become someone who's very, very bitter against this industry. So what you need to do is change that belief, that expectation that you hold, before it really, really, really destroys any sort of progress that you can have within your own trading journey. The last key tenet and value that I want you to all operate from in order to achieve this true trading self-mastery is going to be a weird one, and we've talked about it before, but it's gratitude. People are going to hear that. If anyone isn't in here and this is the first time they're hearing that, they're going to literally think, what is this watermelon on? Gratitude is absolutely crucial in being able to continue to progress in your journey to profitability, or continue on your journey of profitability. What I see a lot of the time is people don't have that iterative process in place where they can assess how much that they have grown in a short duration of time. Have they achieved what they've wanted? No. But in order to continue, in order to stay disciplined, in order to stay patient, in order to build that self-image and that self-respect, it is fucking crucial in this hard task of profitability. It is absolutely imperative that you have gratitude towards yourself and be able to assess the growth that you've already achieved. So for anyone who's in here, they're feeling disheartened, they don't feel like they've progressed as quick and as fast as they think that they could have, or they wanted to, haven't achieved the things that they want to yet. And I know there's a lot of people who are in this position. There's a lot of people that I know since doing this a decade. I've met a lot of people. I know people who've done this 5-7 years and haven't given up, even though they've only ever had maybe 2 profitable years, but they just keep going and they haven't given up. You need to be able to take a step back and be able to assess the actual growth. Again, being honest with yourself, obviously, but assess the actual growth and the progress that you've made from where you were 6 months ago, from where you've made to where you were 12 months ago. Obviously, that learning curve is much, much steeper at the very, very beginning. That incline is extremely aggressive because you're learning new things, multiple new things every single day, and it will slowly flatten out as you get more experienced, as you apply this practically, and it will slow down. But it is essential in order to have the fire within you to keep going, to keep progressing, to keep sticking and operating to your high standards. it's crucial to have gratitude for everything that you have already progressed through. The growth that you've experienced in your mindset, the growth that you've experienced in your technical knowledge, your skill set, and overall the commitment that you've made. It's extremely important. This might sound like an airy-fairy kind of null point to a lot of people, but if you don't have gratitude for all of the effort that you're putting into this and the growth that has already, and recognize the growth that has already happened, it's going to be very easy to just walk away from it. And as I said, a lot of people are on that razor-thin line of success and failure, profitability and drawdown. They're on that razor-thin line. And all it usually takes is 1, 2, 3% of increasing their standards and holding themselves to it to breach that line and stay above it. So ensure that you always practice gratitude towards yourself. Obviously, normal caveats: do not become complacent. Always look to strive for more, but you have to have some sort of appreciation for yourself for the commitment that you have made to the development that you've already achieved. Without that gratitude, it's going to be very, very hard to continue with the actions that you know that you need to continue with. And my kind of final message that's going to wrap up the core curriculum. When it comes to trading, you know how difficult it is. Everyone in here is well experienced. There's not a lot of new traders in here. A lot of people already have 12 months under their belt and know that they had an issue and wanted to understand more about the issues, how to develop the correct mindset, and anything that they might be falling short on right now. You have that expectation that trading is not easy, and it's not for the half-hearted. It's not for someone who just wants to dabble their toe in. No one in here is signing up for signals. We all know what trading is about. We all know the effort that it's going to take and the reward that can be achieved. And to truly achieve that, you have to be all in. And I hate that message. You have to be all in, because what most people's minds go to is you got to risk everything. You got to risk everything, up your risk, start taking 5% trades, quit your job as soon as you get a funded account. You have to go for everything. This is Sparta. This is not the message. The message isn't you have to go all in the sense of risk everything. Trading, you have to take risks, but you have to minimize the exposure to risks that you're taking in order to be able to play long term. When I'm talking about going all in or some sort of unhealthy fixation on that end point, what I mean is you have to be committed to immersing yourself so deeply in the learning of the technical aspects of trading. You have to immerse yourself so deeply in your development of the correct mindset to be that consistently profitable trader. You have to immerse yourself so deeply that everything becomes second nature, and that's how you operate. And people will talk about plan A's, plan B's, and that's the message that I don't like. A lot of you aren't in the physical reality of being able to just go, there is no plan B. A lot of you have to work a job. A lot of you have to work your 9 to 5s. A lot of you might have families or people who are dependent on you. And I don't want this false expectation of telling you that you have to fully commit in the sense of drop everything and just focus 100% on trading and you'll get there. Because it's not the truth. For some people, it is their story, and you hear those stories, but you only hear 0.001% of people who've ever achieved from absolutely nothing, giving up everything that they could, not working a job as soon as they got a funded account. It only plays out for the very, 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 not even worth mentioning, minuscule percentage of traders. Most traders have to have a plan. Whether that plan is, the rationale is, I'm going to continue to work my job, I'm going to go for funding accounts as my experience grows, my ability as a trader develops, and I start finding profitability. I'm going to put this in the background so that it can cover my living costs for 6 months, 12 months. Once I've built that up, I'm going to leave that job so that I have more time to dedicate. I then will use the profits that I'm pulling from that funded account already to do more challenges, to amass more capital. By amassing more capital, I'm reducing my exposure to the risk of just having one account. Now I've got 5 accounts. Now I've got 800K in funding. And you'll see that's how it builds up and builds up. Getting a funded account and going, right, someone said I need to be all in. That means I'm quitting my job. Everything's gone out of the case. You're going to heighten your emotions so aggressively that you will not be able to function as a rational human being. And it's not worth it. It's not worth finding yourself back in the position you were in. So be logical, be sensible, have a plan for how you want to escape the 9 to 5, how you want to get to a point where this is your full-time thing, a full-time trader. But understand, when I'm talking about going all in, I'm not talking about just being completely irrational with the risk that you're taking. When I'm talking about all in, playing small isn't an option. When I'm talking about all in, I'm talking about the processes. I'm talking about the actions that you're taking on a daily basis. I'm talking about your continued learning from a technical point of view. I'm talking about your constant monitoring of your data to learn where you can improve and what you're missing out on. I'm talking about measuring your mindset and the errors that you constantly find yourself in negative behavior loops of, and then implementing the changes which I've given you, which you need to put in place in order to break free of those limiting behavior loops, those limiting loops that you're stuck in. And yes, playing small does not exist in this space. You have to aim to play big. But when it's the same as your goals, when I'm talking about all in, it's everything that is process orientated. It's not outcome related, it's process orientated. So make sure that all of your decisions, all of your actions are logical, relevant to what you want to achieve, but also you're recognizing that there must be reasoning behind it. Don't get stuck in this loop of just going all in, because it will just be a cycle. You'll go all in, you'll get a funded account, you'll then blow it. You'll get a funded account, you'll blow it. You'll get a funded account, you'll blow it. And you'll just constantly find yourself back at stage 1 if you just have a there is no plan B mentality. Commit to the plan A 100% and dream fucking big. Playing small does not serve yourself. It does not serve this world. Aim to play big, but be rational and limit your exposure to the risk whilst you're on the way there. If you don't limit that exposure, you won't be around long enough to play. So be sensible, be logical in those decisions. But it does truly take a commitment to be all in, because this is not an easy game. And to end on a final note, as I said, these are not guidelines, these are principles, these are ways, these are tenets in which you need to operate throughout the entirety of your life. It is true, the way that you do one thing is the way that you do everything. So monitor yourself, observe yourself in all scenarios outside of trading as well as in, because the way that you're going to act when it's not specified to trading will leak in and will affect your trading performance. This is all a journey, right? This is all a journey. And in order to become that independent thinking trader, to really master your trading, to achieve true trading self-mastery, you need to embrace all of these tenets. You need to embrace these values and have them as core beliefs. They're not guidelines. They're not just things that you dabble in. You need to ensure that you approach everything with honesty. You're honest with yourself, you're honest with others, because that's what builds the foundation of self-respect and your self-image. You need to ensure that you're taking complete accountability and responsibility for actions and the decisions that you take, never putting blame on external factors. You need to be willing to embrace the resistance and the challenge that you feel in those times where it feels too much, because that's what allows you to grow. That's what allows you to break free of your comfort zone. You have to have relentless discipline. This is a non-negotiable in the trading world. You have to have relentless discipline and act with that value as your core belief. You have to set excruciatingly high standards for yourself and then hold yourself to them. You need to remain focused, and you need to remain adaptable and flexible to do what needs to be done to overcome the challenge of consistent profitability. And then remember along the way, in order to keep that fire in your stomach, in order to keep pushing forward, in order to keep moving towards everything that you're wanting to achieve, you have to be grateful to yourself for the dedication that you're putting in. And you have to recognize the growth that you've already had, because it will give you the confidence and inspire you to keep going on this journey towards true trading self-mastery.